Hello everyone, this is Jake from CINECALIBER. In today's video, I will be reviewing episode 6 of the new season of The Boys, which is on season 4. Now guys, this will be my 4th review on this TV series, and if anyone wants to catch up, there will be links in the description below of this video for episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Also, this is one of my most anticipated shows of the 2024 year, and if anyone would like a more detailed analysis of those, there will also be a link in the video in the description for that as well. And guys, we're going to get right into it here. So, basically, I'm going to recap some events from episode 5 that played a factor in episode 6. So, first off, the big point in episode 5 was the boys had uncovered that there was a virus that can wipe out soups. But upon discovering that, the operation for the virus had gone bad. Basically, the people that were concocting it, something went wrong and the virus went crazy, basically, infecting a bunch of farm animals. And so that basically left them with nothing. However, we find out at the end of the episode, Butcher had kidnapped the doctor who concocted the virus, and now he plans to use this guy to make more of that virus. Another thing that happened last episode was Frenchie. He's been going through some inner demons this season, and he finally just kind of turned himself into the authorities, which was kind of crazy. Another thing was Huey. He's been dealing with his father's stroke and had given his dad some compound V, which made his dad go crazy in the last episode, and his dad just started killing people, and which kind of gave Huey no choice but to put his dad down. And then also just Starlight. She continues to be slandered by Firecracker publicly, and this is due to a personal vendetta between the two. And on the Vought side of things, for what happened in the last episode, Homelander, he started to grow weary of humans. In the last episode, he basically had the soups joined together to annihilate who they thought was the mole inside of Vought. And this kind of showed the transition of his, he's been kind of just uncaring about how the people view him anymore. And now it's like he's starting to take on this wrathful god persona, which is basically everyone's worst nightmare. And basically he's influencing other members of the Seven because of this, such as Firecracker and the Deep. They've kind of taken it to a whole new level thanks to his influence. Another part of the episode from last week was A-Train. He was basically covering his tracks so that he can't be discovered to be the mole, and he's been doing that with the help of Ashley, who's become kind of like a disgruntled employee due to Sister Stage's taking over the political side of Vought. And then also Victoria Newman. She was assisting the boys in the last episode to get the virus, as she was the one who obtained it in Gen V. And she was working to get it mass-produced and harnessed, but unfortunately it failed. And then she also broke her former foster father, Stan Edgar, out of jail, probably to gain more allies. That's everything that happened last episode that plays a factor, in my opinion. And now we're going to get into the review of episode 6. So we're going to go into what was a hit, the good. So let me tell you, the thing that I really liked in this episode was the continued involvement of Billy's character arc. It's a huge focal point in this episode. So basically Billy, he's now looking to get the virus strong enough to kill Homelander. But then throughout the episode, he has these personal dilemmas through these hallucinations that he keeps having. And it ultimately leads to this crazy major twist that further adds to the mystery of what is going on with his body. Because his body has just been, going through all these things because of all his exposure to Temp V and Compound V. And it's putting him into quite a predicament. It's going to be interesting to see, what's going to happen to him. But yeah, I like that arc a lot. He's grown so much as a character, especially this season. This also was a big episode for MM. And he's been kind of on the sidelines this season. So I was glad to see that they finally gave him some, they finally explored him a bit. So basically throughout the episode, what I noticed is that they sprinkle in that he's kind of stressed, and he's using these various calming apps, and you're oh, he's really stressed out. But then there's a moment where he basically has a panic attack after a certain sequence of events, and then the episode kind of explores the weight of everything that he carries. And I thought that they did a tremendous job. I really hope that they continue to focus on him, because again, we're 6 episodes in, and it feels like he's just kind of been there, but this is a really nice focus for him. I also like too in this episode that Huey is more utilized. He's also another. I'm sorry, he's another one that's been on the side, just kind of been doing his own subplot. Which again, the subplot has done some tremendous characterization for him, but I was ready for him to kind of get back into the main fold, and so he does here. So basically, there's like a main mission where they have to infiltrate a party that's hosted by Tech Knight, who is basically another version of Batman. But there's some really comedic moments here, guys. Basically, Huey, he kind of gets stuck in like this weird dominatrix sex scene with Tech Knight and Ashley, and he was basically impersonating someone called Web Weaver. And it's absolutely hilarious. And Web Weaver is basically, it looks like another version of Spider-Man, but just a more comical take on it. But yeah, some really funny moments there. I was laughing. It was really grotesque. Good stuff. Then the VOD side of things, basically the seven have gathered for a party at Tech Knight's mansion to gain supporters from the congressman to invoke the 25th Amendment against the residing president and basically get Newman into office. So what I liked about them in this episode was that this episode does a good job characterizing the motives of Sister Sage, whose character has been a bit of a mystery this season, but there's a moment between her and Newman where we learn about her, and it's like, after learning about her, you realize that her motives are relatable. Like, even though she's a bad guy, there's a reason she has a hate for humans and why she's doing what she's doing, and I thought that was a tremendous bit of character writing there. And also, too, like, Newman, she kind of is sprinkled in throughout, and she's continues to be a formidable antagonist. Like, she kind of maneuvers so well politically with the congressman to gain their favor. It is outstanding. She really does a great job, and she's turning to be one of the better antagonists. And then, of course, we have pretty much a series antagonist, Homelander. I mean, he's not as involved in this episode, but there's a scene where Anthony Starr just puts on a great performance, like he always does. We continue to see, like, his calm facade, but it's just, like, slipping away, especially when he's, like, under pressure from the congressman. They're basically like, what are your solutions for the future if we decide to invoke the 25th Amendment? And he's just kind of, like, a loss for words, because at the end of the day, he doesn't really know all this stuff politically. He just is all about just getting there and having the allies to do it. And then he doesn't like to be embarrassed. So again, like, during that moment, you're like, oh my God, like, it's kind of scary. You're waiting for him to snap. And it's just like, those moments are like, oh my gosh. And Anthony Starr just does a great job portraying that. Excuse me. There's a scene too in this episode I liked, that kind of gives Deep and Noor a bit of meaning. So basically, they're both outcasted by the Seven. But I felt that the scene between the two in this episode was powerful. Like, we kind of see Deep just embracing this wrathful god persona that Homelander has been instilling on him. And now he's trying to influence the new Noor to basically do the same thing. Which, again, I think is going to be a big part in the remainder of the season. Like, setting up something big for those two. And I really like that. Because those two have been kind of sidetracked. And then also Firecracker, she's starting to plot her own political maneuvering in the Seven, which I love. I love the character Firecracker so far. She's been a very convincing part, but she also has been kind of just used as just like a political voice for Vought, not much else. And I like to see her kind of taking the reins, not just be a pawn. But basically, yeah, there's a moment where she's kind of like poisoning Homelander against Sage, so she's making her move, and I was liking that a lot. Now we're gonna get into what was a miss, the bad. So I did enjoy this episode tremendously, but I just say, compared to the last two episodes, this felt like a little bit of a step back. It felt like they explored more of that grotesque humor, but which again, that grotesque humor makes the boys stand out through all the shock value that they do, but it kind of does it at the sake of the storyline. Like, story doesn't really progress very much here. Like, some really great stuff, but again, the story's just kind of at a slump, and I feel like this season, the whole story really has been like a bit sluggish, so hopefully that kind of picks up. For example, like, the whole Tech Knight scene with, he has this BDSM obsession, that is portrayed so heavily in this episode. And again, good laughs, but if it like overtakes a lot of the runtime this episode, it's like, all right, like, I get it, this is grossly funny, but I'm ready for more. Like, there's just so much that they built up in the last episode for it to not really unfold a lot. In this one, it's kind of a bit of a downer, But again, I did enjoy it when it was on. Just felt like it didn't have to overtake so much of the runtime. And then another thing too, like I said before, Nora and Deep, I like that they kind of are building them to another arc in this episode, but they've been underutilized all season, and I really hope that that changes. And I think it is, because again, I'm seeing a side of Deep I haven't seen before. Nor, like I said, I wasn't too big of a fan of them killing the original Nora off. I thought there was a lot of potential for him, but then yeah, this Nora I feel like is like starting all over again with a whole new character, and yet they've done nothing with him since. But yeah, that was everything that was a miss, guys. I'm actually going to wrap it up here with a conclusion. So, despite its overindulgence on grotesque humor and violence being the spotlight, this is a very balanced episode. And that's due to its outstanding performances. We see a lot of character development, and it's like a more narrow, focused story in this episode rather than everyone's kind of split up, which it makes up for all the sluggish pacing that's been going on with the story progression so far. And I'm hoping that this episode kind of puts us back on track to a more promising final batch of episodes. But with all that said, I'm still going to give this episode a current rating of a 4 out of 5. It's still very good. Still one of my favorite shows so far this year, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And that is all for today. Please like and comment and subscribe to the channel, and I will be back to review the next episode once it releases. This is Jake from CINECALIBER.